Thank you. Thank you very much, Adriaan. For a moment, I thought you were not there. Editor-in-Chief of News24, Adriaan, welcome. If you've missed the intense input we had earlier on from our panelists and Isak and Mr. Shipuri, please let us have your ideas and expertise. Thanks very much.
It's nice to be here, and I must say the input by Angie and Nwabisa has been so excellent. I have very little left to say, specifically because I do agree with both of them that the vitals, or as Nwabisa called it, the main thing is the same, irrespective of platform. I don't think, you know, if you go out to cover the election for News24 or for the Sowetan or for SABC radio, that you have a complete different approach. You look for the story, and we tell stories. We are storytellers, and we look for the truth out there and for compelling stories backed up by facts and data. So I will maybe just limit my input to digital specifically, to a few issues that I think are particularly important for digital platforms heading into an election. And this could be any election, but as Isak factually and diligently showed earlier, there is an incredible amount of data available on the local government election, because we are not only electing we are not electing premiers or a president as in the national and provincial government election, but mayors and councils for every single of, I think, the almost 300 municipalities in South Africa. And that is an immense amount of data, which also makes it very tangible for every journalist, irrespective of whether you work on a national title like News24 or if you work for a small local radio station or newspaper. This election is relevant for you, and you can find the data about your municipality. And I think what's been important for me through the years covering elections at News24 has been to always have a very healthy mix of data coverage and of human interest stories and of service delivery stories. It's not an issue of either or. You should never choose only to do data stories or only to do people stories. Ultimately, the two things are not in opposition to each other. They require different skills from different journalists and different experts in your team or outside your team who can help. But ultimately, we should do both those things. In terms of data storytelling, I think journalists, a lot of journalists have not fully grasped the extent of the data to which you have access through the IEC. Obviously, this year SANEF has also built its own tools, and I'm very proud of those tools that you can all start playing with to track your mayors and look at their election results and participation in your municipalities. But if you just go to the IEC's website, I mean, the amount of data, the fact that you can track the election results for all the elections that's happened since 1994, that you can track them, the fact that that's real-time reporting of data on election day is really very empowering for a website. And I would encourage all of you with websites to invest in skills, in training on how to read the data, how to work a spreadsheet. And I'm not talking computer science stuff here. I'm talking very basic Microsoft Office, Excel tutorial on how to use a spreadsheet, how to import data of previous elections, how to build basic graphs, how to use free tools on the internet to build basic graphs and maps that you can embed into your website. You don't need millions of rands or very expensive developers to do these things anymore. They are freely available, they are accessible, and even someone like myself with a BA degree can use these tools and understand them to a large extent. So I think, the power of data is probably what gives online platforms the edge when it comes to elections coverage. And again, here, it can feel very overwhelming. And I know the term data is being thrown around very liberally sometimes, but don't feel overwhelmed by the concept. Just start playing around. Start playing around on the IC website. Go look into your own municipality where you live, or where your parents live, or where you grew up, and try and make sense of historical data. Historical data, I find, is a very powerful tool to tell election stories, because it tells you the stories of trends. It shows you participation between voter turnout over the past almost 30 years. It shows you the fluctuation in support. So if you, for example, I'm just going to pick a town here, if you work on a local newspaper in Newcastle, in KwaZulu-Natal, go and download the election results for that municipality since the first municipal election. Save those results on an Excel spreadsheet, and the moment the new results come in, you can start to not only build graphics, but get information for stories. You will see yourself, you will have the data to say the IFP support has gone up or down, the ANC has grown, the ANC has gone down, whatever the results may show. I think journalists often wait for political parties and political analysts to analyze the election results. You don't have to do that. You can sit with the results because you have access to all the previous year's results, and you can tell compelling stories. I will never forget in the I think it was the one of the last two local government elections. Well, let's take the last one. I mean, there were sea change results in the last provincial local government election in 2016, when we suddenly had opposition parties getting enough votes to form coalition governments in Tshwane, Johannesburg, Nelson Mandela Bay. And I mean, just to have access to that election data, you could quickly yourself tell those stories in real time as the data comes in. You can drill down to voting districts, to voting halls, to stations, pick a school, pick a library, decide that you're going to track the support at that school for the past 25 years. And build this beautiful story about that. And then I would argue, secondly, also go to that school. Go tell the human stories as well, because the data will show you that party A is losing support, but the data will not tell you why. And to answer the why questions, we still need journalists, boots on the ground. We still need to go into those towns, into the rural areas, into the townships, into the cities, into the suburbs, and go speak to real people. Go ask them about why they think party A has been losing support, or why party C from nowhere has made massive inroads. I think a combination of data and human reporting is crucial to success in the online platform. And lastly, I will just quickly speak a bit about fact-checking. It's again become a bit of a catchphrase, but I really think it's not only the right thing to do, it is critical for us journalists to do fact-checking during an election and use our digital platform specifically to challenge misinformation that is definitely going to be spread, specifically by political parties in this time. So be very careful of social media. Be very careful of who you follow on social media, what you repeat, what you see, and what you retweet on Twitter, for example. I think we have very powerful ways and tools to set the record straight, to fact check in real time, and that we should absolutely be doing that even to a much more aggressive way than we did previously. So the way I view social media, and certainly the way I encourage my journalists in our newsroom to view social media, is to see it merely as a uncorroborated tip-off, not unlike a call to the newsroom in the days when we still went to the newsroom, from an anonymous source telling you something. That is the way, I think, to approach social media, not to repeat it without critical interrogation, but to see it as merely tip-offs that should still be followed up by rigorous fact-checking, meaning pick up the phone, speak to someone, go there, check for yourself, or look at the data if it's a story that needs data. I think it's going to be absolutely critical that we are very sensitive about how social media will be abused and used in the coming election. We saw during the recent unrest in specifically KwaZulu-Natal how social media was abused by powerful people with deep networks to pour fuel on the flames, on the fire. And we're going to have to be very careful not to be dragged into that during the election. Remember what happened with not only Bal Pottinger and the Gupta leaks in South Africa, and how social media was used to change narratives, but also how Donald Trump in the United States, through very sophisticated measures and companies, used social media narratives, Facebook specifically, to try and sway public opinion. Let's be very vigilant and awake to these things, and use our platforms, which I still believe are more powerful and has much more credibility than social media together, to spread the truth. I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Amina.